December 13th, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using the NinjaTrader 8 platform. This is what the charts look like today. There was two key pieces of economic data that came out today. It was at 5:30, which is right about right here, Pacific Standard. It was the core PPI producer price index. And then the more important one was at 11 o'clock, right around this shaded area. This is where the FOMC rate decision came out. Came as kind of no surprise that they were not going to change the interest rates. They did create language and I guess hint that maybe they're going to be a little bit more relaxed on their interest rate hikes. Then around 11:30, which is about right here, Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, came out and gave some color commentary, answered some questions as well. So you can tell from the no decision for no rate change, it caused this very, very strong rally right around right here. The numbers were released. And then when Jerome Powell came out to speak, it also continued the rally all the way back up. It's quite impressive because we were down here around 4,700, and then we hit a high of about 4,764. So in a span of, this short amount of time, let's say about 1 hour, it climbed 60 points on the E-Futures Mini, which is quite impressive. In the pre-market and into the open, things were very, very slow because people were waiting for this official rate decision. So it was kind of range bound from the pre-market highs and pre-market lows. Then it kind of rallied this really strong push up, which I kind of captured in this red up channel. And then there was a pullback, another rally, consolidation, and another final rally. So I took a total of 4 trades today. The first 2 I'm not particularly proud of, and the next 2 were not too bad. So I'm going to go into the discussion right now. There weren't too many setups that I could find just because it was slow in the beginning and then it got wildly bullish afterwards. But even when it was wildly bullish, there wasn't that many trade setups. So this is a pre-market. As you can see, everybody's just kind of hanging out waiting. So it's very choppy. There's no clean setup to really take in here. Nothing that feels safe because you can tell all the bodies and candles are kind of really random. They're either very large or they're very small body and very spiky. So it created the pre-market highs, and I thought the pre-market lows were roughly about right here. Even though this is the pre-market lows here, when the market opened, it looked like it fit a little bit cleaner here. So I eventually dragged it down to where this kind of gray channel looks like. And this is the first setup that I saw. So there's this big sell-off, and then it looks like it's consolidating, creating this support. So I saw this new low here. I saw first entry short, pullback, second entry short. Now, I saw this second entry short, and I'll go through my thinking process. It turned out to be a losing trade. Here we go. So after the break of this green channel, it pushed up and made a new low. So I think the down move has played out, and it gave me confidence that it's starting to do an uptrend to maybe test the top of this range because it found some kind of support here. It's not the cleanest support, but it looked like it was there. And I saw this as a second entry short that formed above the EMA. And I saw this as one leg up, pull back. And I saw since it didn't close below the EMA, it closed above, I was expecting a second push up. And seeing this as like a potential push up, I jumped in pretty much at the high. So I jumped in at the high and it closed. So it was bouncing around. It made this high, came back, picked me up, and then it closed at the high. So that gave me a lot of confidence, like this is probably going to work out. It consolidates, it gets to 3 ticks. So I'm not going to get out. I didn't know at the time, but it didn't get me out. It chops around, it's consolidating. At this point, I should have probably considered either exiting because the EMA is kind of flattening. But I just thought, okay, well, I'm going to just sit this out because I think it's a true failed second entry short. I'd failed to consider that might be a first entry short, second entry short, and this could be creating a lower high. But it is kind of holding, the EMA is kind of holding, so it gave me confidence to just stick with it. It chops down, now it's getting really close to stopping me out, and then it stops me out. So my stop was 1 tick below this guy. As soon as I saw this candle probably closed below, and then this one, I probably just should have exited, but I held in there because there's only one more tick at that point, and of course then it stops me out. So then prices continue moving. This is where I see my second setup. So it just came from a new high, it made a first entry long, goes all the way down. It creates a second entry long, and it confirms the second entry long. It's bouncing against the EMA. It's being rejected. I found this channel coming down. It creates a twin bar, but this time it closed at the bottom as opposed to this one closed in the middle. So I'm thinking, okay, this is a failed second entry long. I'm going to jump in on this trade. But I didn't really, yeah, I saw there was enough room from here down to here, but I should have been thinking more likely the bottom is right here, the bottom of this trading range made by the pre-market, and there's not enough room. But I was kind of blinded by that. I was trying to get this loss back, which is foolish. So I entered, not foolish to try to get the loss back, but foolish as using that as a reason to take the trade. So I entered the low. It flashes here. My stop is one tick above this double top. It bounces around. It's pretty much just chopping sideways. And as it's chopping sideways, it comes up. It almost stops me out. A second time, it almost stops me out. And right here, it's taking a little bit of time to complete these candles. And I was getting pretty nervous, debating whether I should just get out, break even. But I held into it. And when I saw this come up and fail, push back down, I changed my strategy, my plan on the fly, which is not a good idea. I should have stuck with the plan. What I decided to do was I typically go for 1 point. I decided that I wanted to go for 2 points. Now, going for 2 points is pushing this way far below where the original entry is. So I'm actually pushing it below the current lows, which isn't the smartest idea. But I was trying to recover this loss, and I saw this consolidating and kind of thinking that it's going to start weakening and move down, which, it doesn't really have enough information to tell me that, but I convinced myself that was the fact. So I actually moved my stop. Well, my stop stayed the same, but I moved my limit order a little bit lower to get the full 2 points. And I was able to scalp out. But after I decided to do that and I got the profit and I kind of cleaned up this loss, I thought back and I thought this was a pretty foolish thing to do. I didn't stick with the plan, and I was lucky to get the 2 points because this isn't a very strong setup to think that you're going to try to get 2 points. You're already pushing against the lows of the pre-market. Like if it was coming from the top here, that's another thing, but I'm already at the lows and I'm trying to push it even further. The fact that I did get out with 1 tick to spare is more luck because as you're going to see, prices just kind of flashed all the way back up. So I didn't keep that in mind, and this is a good trade that I'm proud of. It was partially motivated by trying to recover from this loss, and this one wasn't even a good setup in the first place. That I should have, been more thoughtful. But I think there's like 7 minutes in the open. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get a quick trade in, and that was not the good way to take a trade. The prices move up, falls into this green channel. I had this where the midline was as my original channel. I thought it was a spike, and then this channel, but it broke out, and I dragged the bottom, tried to fit it here, and it looked like it fit pretty well. There's no good clean second entries. It starts moving down. I think there's a potential resistance up here, and I thought this might be a support. So I came up with this yellow channel, and I saw this as a new high. Actually, it's new high here. The first entry long, pullback, second entry long. Now, unlike this previous one, this is coming from the top of the range. Coming from the top of the range, it's being rejected by the EMA, closed very strongly. It has a third confirmation of this yellow channel coming down. So I thought this is a good trade to take, even though there's a localized bottom here. I felt that most likely price action is pushing back down to reach the other side because it broke through the EMA, but it looks like it's getting squashed down. It's creating lower highs every time and lower lows. So I entered 1 tick below. It flashes around and it pushes down, and I was able to get my quick scalp. So this one's I'm okay with. This is not too bad. It's going down. The yellow channel is holding prices back down, which is, I'm still watching. There's no setup here right now because there is a new low. It's the first entry short, but that's all you get. And then you can't really find a good second entry long because, you could arbitrarily just pick any point and find a second entry long, but that doesn't necessarily make it a good trade. It pushes down, it breaks out, comes back down, goes back into the yellow channel. And when this happened, I always look back and I wondered, was there a trade here? The best you could argue for is a triple test, but there was no clean second entry. So you'd only be playing off the triple test and the EMA holding. And I didn't really quite like that. Prices then continue moving. And so now we're getting very close to the FOMC rate announcement. So I just kind of sat back and waited. And as you can see, this is from 10:45 all the way to 11. So this is 15 minutes of price action, and it only created 5 candles. So it's very, very slow trading. everybody is doing what I did, which is sit back, wait to see what they're going to say. And as you can see, this is at 11 o'clock and 2 seconds, and it created this gigantic candle. Look, if you just keep moving, this is still under 1 minute. This is from 11 o'clock and 2 seconds. This is still 11 o'clock and 58 seconds. This is finally entering the second minute, 11:01, but you can see this is the price action all within 1 minute, which is very violent because not only do these print, they're flashing like this candle. This meant at one point, this candle was this big red candle all the way down to here, and it came back up. The same thing with this one. This green candle at one time was this big red candle, flashed up, made this gigantic green candle, and then came back down here. So it's just something to be aware of. I'm just waiting. This is only in 2 minutes after the fact. And this is just crazy price action. I didn't want to gamble or try to anticipate which way it would go. Everybody knew, or not everybody knew, but most people expected there was going to be no rate change. However, is that going to be interpreted as positive, like this case, or negative? Or positive, but after they hear the news, it could have had a flash crash down and then flash back up. So it's always best to stay out of that type of news event, especially the FOMC rate decision during this time of economic uncertainty. So then prices continue moving up. I found the green channel, it broke out, creates this new high. It's a first entry long pullback. I'm thinking it's going to create a second entry long. I like this because it broke out of the green channel, and I'm thinking it breaks out of the green channel and wants to test the high. This is the first attempt up, pull back. Looks like it's about to make a second attempt, so I decided to enter one tick above, and I was able to flash out, quickly get it out before it hit the top, because I want to make sure I get out before it hit a potential resistance up here. It is kind of early because this is only roughly 7 minutes after the rate decision has come out, so it is a little bit early, but I felt pretty confident in this trade. Prices then continue chopping. It just kind of keeps moving. It's getting very, very congested. And now everybody is just kind of settling in, digesting, thinking about what Jerome Powell is going to say. So we're just kind of sitting tight. You see a first entry long here. Technically, you have a second entry long, but this is a terrible signal bar. It's very, very tight trading here. Breaks out below. I find this red channel eventually because I first drew it as a trend line support, and I wasn't sure where the resistance was. Originally, I had it up here, and I thought this was overshoot. Eventually, I settled upon the top here. Bounces and it continues moving. So at this point, Jerome Powell comes out and he starts speaking. He adds some color. The market likes what it hears. Technically, you have a new low here. It's the first entry short here, but if you count this as a cleaner first entry short visual, there's technically a second entry short and a failure here. But this is already pressing toward the top, as you can see. And this is all based upon, so Jerome Powell is still speaking. So anything he says or hints could cause this to crash. So I'm just very wary of this iffy setup. The prices continue moving up. The market likes what they're hearing. It kind of falls into this consolidation area. This is very, very tight trading because this is only about, given that it's only like 3.5 points, it's just too tight right now. So it keeps pushing up. It confirms the red channel a third time, once, twice, 3 times. So I like it. I like it to go long if it bounces off of here, but I'm a little suspicious of going short if it ever touches here. Also, it's be counter trend trading, so I just be a little more cautious. Prices then continue. It chops around. This is where I see a second entry long. Now, a second entry long, I thought this is actually a possible trade. Depending on how you did the count, it could actually be new high, first entry long. Whether you did the count reset or not, it's kind of up to you. If you did the count reset, then this is a first entry long. I didn't do the count reset. I said it's a first entry long pullback, second entry long. I like this setup, but I didn't take it. I like this bounced off the bottom of this potential range, and there's enough room to scalp out. It's a good signal bar. So this might have been worth taking a risk on because if you're only looking for 1 point, you'd be out by right here. Looked like it worked, but I didn't take it. Also liked that it was bouncing off the red channel. Then prices continue moving. This breaks through the red. Now it's below the EMA. So I'm thinking, okay, there could be a correction in play. Kind of flashes down. This is where I see an almost setup. It's a setup that's almost there, but it wasn't good enough. So first entry short, second entry short. So right here, it's breaking out of this green channel, and this breakout most likely is going to fail. The first breakout is probably going to get pulled back in. It's also being rejected by the EMA. Now, why is it not a potential setup? In my opinion, it's an almost setup. Is this candle needed to close a little bit more bearish for me to feel confident. I wanted it to close inside this green down channel. So it had to be a little bit more bearish, and I feel a little more confident about it. And so I kind of left it alone. And it's, even though it's kind of pushing into the lows, the overall bias previously was very bullish. So I needed a very rock solid setup to feel confident on taking a short. Turns out it would have worked, but again, I wasn't confident in my read at the time. So I just had to keep waiting. Moves back into the green channel. Technically, I saw this as well. I saw this as a new high. It's the first entry long, second entry long. But here, it's bouncing off the bottom of this green channel. This is the signal bar. If you use this as a signal bar, you could argue there's enough room to make it back to the other side. But as you can see, it already bounced a few times off the green, and it kept going down off the bottom of the green channel. So I wasn't too confident on it. I thought, if anything, I need to see a higher low. And you don't get a higher low till about right here, but then you feel like you might be pushing against this EMA, plus you're right at the top of this top of the green down channel. So it felt like I might be potentially get pulled back in. Turns out it would have worked for a quick scalp, but of course you don't know that at the time. If you overstayed your welcome, you kept your stop right here, you probably would have gotten stopped out by this red candle before it continued back upwards. So this wasn't a safe setup in my opinion anyways. The prices then continue moving up. And it's getting very late in the day now. It consolidates. I don't like to see this because it's very hard to trade because it's like 755 and this is 752. So there's only 3 points of range here. And these candles are already pretty big in respect to the size of the range. So I just had to sit this one out. Then it kind of chops and then it enters the last 10 minutes, which I do not want to take a trade in because last 10 minutes typically gets very, very choppy. And it kind of goes into the close. So it was an interesting day. Not too many setups that I could find, but there were enough setups. Like there were probably 2 good setups here that I took. And then these 2 are a lot iffier. So the first red and then followed by 3 greens. So that's how I saw it. So hopefully that was helpful.